Hello guys, this is Hikari the Saiyan and here's a quick recap of previous episode. The Tournament of Power began after Zeno announced that losing universes would be erased forever. Beerus gave Universe 7 1 month to gather 10 fighters including Frieza, King Cold, Cell and Dabura. After intense training, Goku, Vegeta, and Cell reached terrifying new levels. Once the tournament started, Universe 9 was erased first, shocking everyone. Kale went berserk until Jiren stopped her with one hit. Cell and Dabura eliminated Dispo, while Vegeta unlocked Super Saiyan 3. Then Frieza and King Cold picked Frost by pretending to betray Universe 7 before Cold suddenly eliminated him from the arena. And now Universe 7 still has all 10 warriors standing while Jiren still hasn't moved. Now let's continue the story and enjoy the video.
Across the platform, Vegeta stared. Then a slow, reluctant, deeply arrogant laugh escaped him. Unbelievable. I actually thought for a moment they were really going to betray us. He shook his head. The whole time, it was a performance. A trap to draw that fool in and take him off the board. Obviously, Cell said from somewhere nearby, his tone carrying the particular condescension of someone who had known the answer before the question was asked. I understood they were feigning from the very beginning. Their energy carried no genuine killing intent at any point. It was a transparently obvious deception. "Shut your mouth, you miserable insect," Vegeta said sharply. That comment was completely unnecessary. Frieza dusted off his hands with the satisfied air of someone who had just completed an unpleasant but necessary errand. "That small and pathetic warm-up has at least opened my appetite, father." His eyes drifted across the arena to where the Universe 6 Saiyans had been fighting. "And since there are more of those repugnant Saiyans available on this platform, I believe now is the perfect time to go and properly vent our frustrations." Cold's expression carried something that, in a less terrifying individual, might have been called anticipation. An excellent idea. Let us remind those apes of Universe 6 what true terror looks like. Cabba stood in front of Kefla and Kale, mounting guard, when the shadows of the two frost demons fell across them. He had maybe a fraction of a second to register what was coming. Frieza appeared directly before him, not running, not powering up, not announcing himself. Simply there, suddenly, in the space Cabba had been occupying. What followed was not a fight. It was a lesson in the difference between power and violence. Frieza's barrage was brutally sadic and utterly precise. Blows to the stomach, the chest, the jaw, the ribs, each one timed to prevent Cabba from recovering between impacts, each one landing with enough force to hurt without enough mercy to end it quickly. The young Saiyan's guard crumbled inside the first 3 seconds. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't find a gap. He couldn't even fall down properly because each time gravity tried to claim him, another strike kept him upright just long enough to receive the next one. "You know something, boy?" Frieza said conversationally, as if commenting on the weather. "In my universe, I personally oversaw the extermination of your entire wretched race. I shattered your planet into 1,000 pieces and watched your kind burn in the vacuum of space like the miserable apes you are." His voice never rose. "You are a plague, every last one of you." Something inside Cabba broke. Not physically, but somewhere deeper than that. Pure, unfiltered, absolute rage detonated from his core. A flash of brilliant gold light erupted around him, and his hair ignited, blazing, crackling, alive. The Super Saiyan transformation tore itself free from the depth of his fury, and, driven by a power he had never accessed through training alone, Cabba wrenched himself free of Frieza's grip and drove a clean, hard fist directly into the Frost Demon's face. The impact snapped Frieza's head sideways, a beat of silence. Frieza turned his gaze slowly back toward Cabba, his expression unhurried, his face completely unmarked. His smile was the most frightening thing on the platform. "What a tender little punch," he said softly. A single knee drove into Cabba's abdomen with a force that extinguished the golden aura like a candle in a hurricane. Cabba's eyes went blank. His transformation collapsed. Frieza stepped aside, gave him a casual kick toward the edge of the platform, and watched him disappear over it without any further interest. The enormous yellow figure of Botamo had been watching the exchange from nearby, and the moment Cabba fell, the rotund Universe 6 warrior decided to act, charging at the two frost demons from behind with his full weight and momentum. Android 16, who had been walking peacefully through the area with his hands at his sides, stepped into Botamo's path without urgency. "Scan complete," he said. "Rubber-based physical composition. Nullifies the impact of energy attacks and physical strikes. Optimal strategy. Avoid direct blows." He didn't throw a punch. Instead, 16 simply crouched, wrapped both arms around Botamo's legs with the immovable grip of a machine built for exactly this kind of problem, straightened up, and hurled the enormous warrior over his head and off the platform with the calm efficiency of someone taking out the recycling. Botamo vanished into the void. Frieza turned toward Kefla, who stood her ground with gritted teeth, her arms spread protectively in front of a barely conscious Kale. He took one step toward them. An invisible force crashed into his stomach. The impact was so sudden, so clean, so devastatingly precise that Frieza found himself on his knees before he understood what had happened. Both arms wrapped around his midsection, the breath completely gone from his body, staring at the ground with an expression he had not worn since before the month of training had begun. A second blow was already in motion, aimed at his face, carrying enough force to finish the job and send him off the platform. A heavy mechanical arm appeared between the strike and its target. Android 16's forearm absorbed the impact with a resonant clang, stopping it centimeters from Frieza's cheek. The assassin of Universe 6 materialized slowly from the space where nothing had been, lowering his fist, his expression as still and unreadable as carved stone. "I will not allow any more members of my universe to be eliminated," Hit said. In Universe 6's stands, Champa erupted from his seat with an enthusiasm that nearly knocked over his throne, waving both arms above his head. "Yes, that's it! Go Hit! Show those cheating criminals who's in charge! Send them flying!" Android 16 turned his sensors inward, running an immediate analysis. Alert. Anomaly detected. The attack pattern is irregular. Trajectory and impact do not correspond to standard physical movement. My sensors indicate the speed of his strikes exceeds my visual processing capacity. He is too fast to track. "Your electronic hardware noticed it too," Cell said from nearby, having observed the exchange with sharp, calculating eyes. "My internal systems register the same thing. This individual's speed defies conventional logic, even for my perfect visual acuity." Goku and Vegeta arrived simultaneously, reading the situation in an instant. "Well," Goku said, and there was something in his voice, not quite excitement, not quite tension, but the particular quality of alertness that appeared in him when he sensed that a fight was about to become genuinely interesting. "I think it's time we started fighting seriously, don't you think, Vegeta?" "Don't get in my way, Kakarot," Vegeta said. "I'll handle this myself." "Don't underestimate him," Goku said more seriously. "I've been watching his technique from a distance. It isn't just speed. I can feel it. His movements go beyond time itself. He's skipping it, jumping over it." "Skipping time," Vegeta repeated flatly. "What a cheap trick. Reminds me of that weakling Guldo from the Ginyu Force, the one who could freeze time." "You're wrong," Frieza said from the ground, still catching his breath, his voice carrying the particular irritation of someone correcting an important factual error. "This individual is incomparably more dangerous and lethal than that pathetic green creature. His technique operates on an entirely different level." "Frieza's right," Goku said. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, settling something internally. "Which is why I'm going to have to use what I learned training with Lord Whis." The platform went quiet in his immediate vicinity. Cell turned sharply. "You can't be serious, Kakarot. You're going to use that already? The tournament has barely begun. It's a catastrophic waste of energy. If I don't use it now, I won't be able to keep pace with his technique," Goku said simply. "He'll take me off the platform before I can adjust." "What on earth is he talking about?" Cell demanded, looking at Vegeta. "I thought his ceiling was that absurd, long-haired, no-eyebrow transformation." Goku didn't answer. He set his feet apart. He pressed his fists against his sides. He closed his eyes. And then, something happened to the air around him. It was not a shout. It was not an explosion. It was something quieter and far more unsettling than either. A deep, almost gravitational shift in the pressure of the atmosphere, as if the space around Goku was recognizing something and stepping back to make room for it. A column of light descended from the void above and surrounded him completely. When it faded, the change was visible before it was comprehensible. In the stands, every god of destruction rose from their seat. Supreme Kais leaned forward. Angels straightened with expressions of genuine surprise. "What is that?" one of the gods breathed. "That's Saiyan. He's radiating the energy of a god." Beerus leaned forward in his throne, something moving behind his ancient eyes that was not quite pride, but was close enough to be its cousin. He glanced sideways at the other gods with an expression of immense self-satisfaction. "Surprise, you fools," he said. "That is the level that the mortals of my universe are capable of reaching." On the platform, the reactions were immediate and involuntary. Cell stepped back, one single step, pure instinct overriding the pride of a being who did not step back from anything. Frieza pushed himself to his feet, jaw tight. King Cold straightened. Every fighter in range felt the pressure settle on their shoulders like an additional gravity. "What kind of trick is this?" Frieza said quietly. "I can't sense his ki through normal means anymore. But the pressure his mere presence exerts is absolutely overwhelming." His hands tightened at his sides. That miserable ape. Always keeping something hidden, to humiliate everyone around him at the worst possible moment. Goku opened his eyes. He was gone before the sentence was finished. The collision between Goku and Hit sent a shockwave rippling outward across the platform. For a fraction of a second they were locked, and then Hit was gone, vanished mid-exchange, reappearing in Goku's blind spot and driving a clean strike into his ribs. Goku absorbed the impact, grunted, and pivoted. Hit skipped time again, dropping in from a different angle for the follow-up, and Goku's fist was already there. Not where Hit had been, where Hit was going to be. The punch caught the assassin across the cheek with enough force to push him backward, his eyes widening with something he almost never experienced. Genuine surprise. "You predicted it," Hit said. "You skip forward by about 1/10 of a second," Goku said, settling back into his stance. "Once I understood the interval, anticipating your landing point became straightforward. Move to where you'll arrive instead of where you were, and your technique loses its advantage. Before Hit could recalibrate for a longer skip, the sky around him erupted. A barrage of precisely calculated explosive missiles and targeting lasers detonated across every viable escape trajectory simultaneously, cutting off the geometric possibilities of Hit's movement pattern with mechanical thoroughness. "Tactical support engaged," Android 16 announced. "Enemy movement calculations complete. Temporal interval pattern and spatial positioning have been fully decoded and entered into my combat database." Then a second column of divine light erupted beside 16. The platform shut. The second pillar was every bit as massive as the first. When it cleared, Vegeta stood with turquoise blue hair, his Super Saiyan blue form blazing around him, watching Hit with a smile that contained no warmth and considerable arrogance. Frieza's composure flickered. "Impossible. That conceited little prince also possesses that divine transformation." "Hey, Vegeta," Goku called across to him. "Wasn't he supposed to be my opponent?" "Shut up and attack, Kakarot," Vegeta said. "This individual is too dangerous with his time manipulation. We remove him from the board right now." Hit was extraordinary. Against any single opponent on the platform, perhaps against any combination of opponents drawn from most of the universes present, his technique and his power would have been decisive. But caught between two divine-powered Saiyans attacking with coordinated precision, with every possible evasion route triangulated and denied by a machine that could not be panicked or tired, the space available to him compressed down to nothing. He attempted one final, desperate skip, reaching for a longer interval, a greater jump, more distance between himself and the inevitability closing around him. Vegeta was already standing in his blind spot. The ascending kick connected with Hit's chest and launched him skyward. Goku appeared above him in the same instant, hands already coming together. The Kamehameha wave at point-blank range was not the largest one Goku had ever fired. It didn't need to be. The light engulfed Hit completely, carried him backward, and deposited him across the boundary line of the platform. He appeared in Universe 6's spectator section a moment later, seated, composed, his expression revealing nothing about what he was feeling internally. But he was there, and not on the platform. The silence from Universe 6's stands lasted approximately 2 full seconds.
"It can't be," Vado said softly. "Hit, our finest warrior, the infallible assassin." She folded her hands with practiced serenity, though something strained at its edges. "The situation has become critically severe, Lord Champa." Champa was not practicing serenity. He had both hands pressed against the sides of his enormous head and appeared to be having some kind of internal crisis. "No, no, 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 no. We still have Magetta, Dr. Rhoda, the 2 Saiyan girls, and the 2 Namekians. Everyone listen to me. Hide under the rocks if you have to. Run. Survive. Just do not let them throw you off that platform. I am begging you." "Proximity alert," Android 16 said, his eyes scanning an empty section of the arena floor with sudden, focused attention. "My thermal scanners and motion detection systems are registering anomalies at microscopic scale. There are concealed warriors in our immediate vicinity." Trunks looked around. The area looked completely empty. "Concealed? You mean invisible? Fighters that small?" "Confirmed. Their thermal signatures are nearly negligible, but they cannot evade my digital tracking systems." Initiating elimination protocol. Both of 16's fists detached from his arms and launched independently toward sections of empty air. 2 explosions erupted from the vacant ground simultaneously. A warrior with the appearance of a large insect was thrown violently upward from one blast, and a camouflaged figure moving at extreme speed was launched from the other. Both of them disoriented and airborne before they could reorient themselves. Trunks was already moving. 2 quick, precise strikes, and both warriors crossed the boundary before they touched the ground. The final participants of Universe 4 have fallen from the platform. Universe 4 will be annihilated. "This is a trap!" Universe 4's god screamed from the stands. "I demand a review! This is completely—" The king of everything raised one small hand. A flash of clean, white light. And Universe 4 was simply no longer there. In the quiet that followed, Cell looked around the arena with the particular expression of someone taking stock of an inventory. "What a profoundly boring way to clean out the garbage," he said. "What exactly are you implying?" Goku asked. "I'm saying," Cell said, glancing briefly at the divine auras still radiating from Goku and Vegeta, "that while your blue-haired god transformation is admittedly interesting, neither of you should be especially impressed with yourselves." He raised one hand, studying it. "My body has achieved an evolution that surpasses that form entirely." "Don't make me laugh, you miserable insect," Vegeta said. "Then look around you," Cell replied. "This platform is crawling with people who have no business breathing the same air. Those ridiculous magical girls from Universe 2. The collection of oxidizing machinery from Universe 3. The rabble from Universe 10. His expression carried the particular fastidiousness of someone finding poor quality ingredients in an otherwise acceptable meal. "It offends me. It is time to clean this stage and leave only the fighters that are actually worth fighting." He raised one hand. A perfect dome of golden energy expanded outward from his body, not indiscriminate, but shaped with extraordinary precision, calibrated specifically to encompass every living being on the platform except for Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Piccolo, Trunks, Android 16, Frieza, Cold, Dabura, and the Universe 6 survivors. Everyone inside the barrier felt it immediately. "What is this?" Piccolo's eyes went sharp. "He's created a barrier around us. What is he planning?" "I told you," Cell said quietly, settling into a stance. "I'm going to show you my absolute perfection." His fists closed. The golden aura that erupted from his body was not the controlled, disciplined light of a Super Saiyan. It was something else. Wilder, denser, more ancient in some fundamental way, as though it came from a deeper place than training or transformation. His skin shifted from green to gold, and the power radiating from him pressed down on the arena like a second gravity. In the stands, every divine being present reacted. Gods of destruction, who had maintained perfect composure throughout the tournament, leaned forward. Supreme Kais gripped their armrests. Angels observed with expressions that were very close to astonishment. "That energy has no logical basis," someone said from the stands. "That creature just surpassed divine power under its own ability," another voice replied, quietly, as if saying it too loudly might make it more real. Frieza stared at Cell with an expression that contained, buried very deeply beneath the contempt, something that might have been the beginning of genuine concern. "My cells. Father's cells. He used our genetics to reach that on his own." Cold said nothing, but his eyes, as they moved across Cell's golden form, were doing rapid and uncomfortable mathematics. Far across the platform, Toppo stood still and felt a cold sweat form on the back of his neck. He did not look away. And Jiren, who had not fully opened his eyes once during the entire tournament, opened them now. Wide. "Disappear," Cell said. The golden wave rolled outward across the platform in every direction. It was not a beam, not a blast. not an explosion in the traditional sense. It was simply the physical consequence of that much power released in a single expanding motion. A tsunami of compressed golden ki that swept the arena from its center to its edges in one continuous, unstoppable motion. The screams were brief. Warriors from Universe 2 cartwheeled through the air, their magical transformations unraveling in the light. The mechanized fighters of Universe 3 were sent spinning end over end, their metallic bodies flashing as they crossed the boundary. Universe 10's warriors flew outward in every direction without exception. All participants of Universes 2, 3, and 10 have been eliminated. 3 more flashes of white light from the King of Everything's direction. 3 more universes gone as if they had never been. Cell straightened up, lowered his arms, and surveyed the result with deep, unhurried satisfaction. "Much better," he said. "Now we have adequate space to fight properly." The platform, reduced to scorched and cratered ruins, now held only a handful of surviving warriors. Kefla and Kale, battered and barely standing, helped each other remain upright among the debris. The 2 Namekians of Universe 6 emerged from the dust with steady, measured composure, their power undiminished, their expressions revealing nothing except readiness. And from the far end of what remained of the arena, 2 figures stepped through the settling smoke without hurrying, without visible damage, without any indication that the wave that had reshaped the entire battlefield had inconvenienced them at all. Toppo, broad-shouldered, powerful, his fists loose at his sides, his jaw set, and Jiren, standing with his arms behind his back, his expression carrying the particular stillness of someone who had been waiting for precisely this moment. His eyes moved across the survivors with the slow, thorough attention of a man finally finding something that warranted it. The tournament had been reduced to its core. The chaos was over. The noise was gone. What remained on the shattered platform was not a battle royal anymore. It was a reckoning. Universe 7, still impossibly intact. 10 warriors present, facing the last survivors of Universe 6 and the 2 men the Pride Troopers had held in reserve throughout everything. Jiren had watched. He had waited. He had let the tournament come to him. Now there was nowhere left for it to go except through him. And somewhere in the stands above, the King of Everything watched with unblinking eyes, his small hands folded in his lap, as the last act of the Tournament of Power finally, truly began. The dust settled slowly across the ruins of the platform, revealing the full scale of what Golden Cell had done. Where there had once been a vast arena filled with dozens of warriors from across the multiverse, there was now scorched stone, shattered rock, and silence. In Universe 6's stands, the damage assessment was immediate and brutal. "That green creature is an obscenely powerful monster," Champa said, gripping the arms of his throne. "If we don't do something right now, our universe is next." He turned to Vados with something approaching desperation in his enormous eyes. "Tell me you have an idea." "I'm afraid you're right, Lord Champa," Vados said, her voice carrying its customary composure, though even she could not entirely mask the gravity of what they were looking at. "The power differential is catastrophic. We have very few options remaining." She paused. "However, there is one." Down on the platform, Champa's voice reached his 2 remaining Saiyan warriors with sudden urgency. "Kefla, Kale." Both young women looked up. Kefla's eyes went wide the moment she saw what was being thrown toward them. "Are those are Potara earrings. They're planning to use the fusion of the gods in the middle of a tournament?" From the stands, BDL mod shot to his feet. I protest. Bringing external objects into combat is strictly prohibited by the established rules of this tournament. This is a blatant and shameless trap. You fat cheating coward, Champa started. The Grand Priest raised one hand, and the argument ceased. The objection is denied, Lord Beerus. His voice was perfectly level. Upon reflection, Potara earrings represent a particularly interesting element for the spectacle of this tournament. Their use is hereby permitted. The tournament continues. Beerus settled back in his throne, his expression somewhere between satisfaction and mild surprise at his own luck. On the platform, both young Saiyans placed the earrings simultaneously, one on each ear. The fusion was not gentle. A column of light erupted between them, violent and absolute, pulling both bodies toward each other with a force that had nothing voluntary about it. The collision of their two energies was audible, a deep, resonant detonation that sent shockwaves rippling outward across the debris field. When the light cleared, one warrior stood where two had been. She stretched her arms, rolled her neck, and looked around the arena with the particular expression of someone discovering just how large the world had suddenly become. "This feels extraordinary," she said. Then she smiled, wild, confident, entirely comfortable with the monstrous energy now radiating from her body. "A supreme warrior has been born. Call me Kefla." The reaction was immediate across the entire platform and the stands above it. "Her ki is absolutely enormous," Gohan breathed. "Impossible," Piccolo said, his eyes fixed on the fusion with the focused intensity of a man recalibrating every assumption he had just made. That fusion multiplied their combined power to a completely absurd level. Cell, for his part, studied the new arrival with the quiet appraisal of a collector encountering an unexpected exhibit. "Finally," he murmured, "an insect worth crushing." Kefla's gaze swept the survivors with spectacular arrogance. "All right then, who's going to be my first punching bag? The shiny golden one, or you two pathetic lizards?" The temperature around Frieza dropped several degrees. "The insolence of this fusion is extraordinary," he said, very quietly. "Agreed," Cold said beside him, his voice carrying a cold, measured fury. "This Saiyan mongrel requires an urgent lesson in both terror and manners. The very sight of another Saiyan flaunting such revolting power makes me physically ill." He glanced at Frieza. "We'll clean up this garbage ourselves. Leave it to us, Cell." Before another word could be spoken, both frost demons vanished. They reappeared around Kefla simultaneously, Frieza from the left, Cold from the right, moving at a speed that broke the air apart as they passed through it, both in their final forms, both carrying the weight of a full month of genuine training behind every strike. "Don't be idiots!" Vegeta snapped from across the platform, watching the engagement with fierce frustration. "You absolute arrogant fools! Fighting her individually, you have no chance against that power level. None." In the stands, the Supreme Kai was already moving. "Lord Beerus, the Potara," he said urgently. "We need to use them too. Right now. Those two will be eliminated in seconds." Beerus watched the engagement for exactly one beat, reading it with the eye of someone who had observed battle for millions of years. Then he snapped his fingers. "Shin, the earrings. Throw them onto the platform now." The Supreme Kai pulled his Potara from his ears without hesitation and threw them toward the arena below. "Catch them and fuse, both of you. I don't care that you don't have ears. Figure it out, or I will destroy you myself before Kefla gets the chance." Frieza stared at the earrings as they landed at his feet. His expression was the expression of a man being asked to eat something he finds deeply repugnant. "Fusing with my father," he said. "This is an obscenity without precedent." "We have no choice," Frieza, Cold said, picking up the second earring with deliberate calm. "That girl's power is genuinely repulsive in its magnitude. We've both seen enough combat to know when the numbers don't work." He met his son's eyes. "This is one of those times." Frieza said nothing further. Both frost demons placed the earrings against their skin simultaneously. The fusion that followed was not the warm golden light of the Saiyan fusion. It was something darker, more violent. A collision of two enormous and fundamentally similar energies that seemed to resist the process, even as it completed itself. The light that erupted from their merging was wrong somehow, both dazzling and deeply shadow-tinged, brilliant and sinister at once, as though the universe itself couldn't quite decide whether to celebrate or recoil. When it ended, one figure stood in the space where two had been, taller, broader, carrying a presence so dense it pressed against the senses of every warrior on the platform like a physical object. "Absolute power has been born," the fusion said, in a voice that contained harmonics of both its components simultaneously. "You may call me Cold, sir." The reaction in the stands was immediate. Gods of destruction, who had maintained composure through everything, leaned forward. Several Supreme Kais rose from their seats. Whis' eyebrows shifted by a fraction of a centimeter, which, for Whis, was the equivalent of anyone else's jaw dropping. On the platform, the assembled Universe 7 warriors absorbed the new power signature with varying expressions. "That key is monstrous," Gohan said. "This is getting completely out of control," Piccolo said quietly. "Though I suppose it was inevitable." Kefla, for her part, was entirely unbothered by the development. "I don't care how ugly it gets," she said, dropping into her stance. "I'll kick every last one of you off this platform." She launched herself forward at maximum speed, her fist already accelerating toward Kolzer's face with the force of two fused, super-powered Saiyans behind it. Cooler smiled, a single finger extended, the punch stopped against it. Kefla's eyes went wide. "Such a pathetic attempt," Cooler said, in the cold, harmonized voice of Frieza and Cold, speaking simultaneously through a single throat. What followed was not a fight. It was a demonstration. Kolzer's counterattack was precise, relentless, and utterly without mercy. A sustained barrage that dismantled Kefla's defenses with the systematic thoroughness of someone who had studied every weakness she possessed, because they had spent a month learning how to be faster and hit harder than anything they had ever encountered. Each blow landed with surgical accuracy, each impact compounding the damage of the last, until a single devastating strike to the stomach ended the exchange with the clean finality of a period at the end of a sentence. Kefla was airborne before she could process what had happened. The fusion came apart mid-flight, Caulifla and Kale separating into two unconscious, tumbling bodies that landed in Universe 6's spectator section before the arena floor had stopped shaking from the impact. In the stands, Champa stared at the empty platform below him for a long, silent moment. "My Saiyans," he said quietly. "It's over." Vados placed a hand on his shoulder and said nothing. "Only Sayonel and Polina remain," Champa said. He looked at the two Namekians still standing on the shattered arena below, and his voice, when he spoke again, carried something that had not been there before. Something that sounded almost like genuine sorrow. "Please, don't lose." On the far side of the ruined platform, the two Namekians of Universe 6 were not losing. Not yet. Sonel and Pelina fought with the particular quality of warriors who understood exactly what was at stake and had accepted it completely. Not with desperation, but with a deep, settled commitment that made them dangerous in a way that raw power alone could not replicate. Every warrior of their race had fused into them before the tournament. Every hope, every memory, every last heartbeat of every Namekian in their universe lived inside them. We carry the strength and the hope of our entire race within us, Seonel said, his voice steady as he absorbed a combined blast from Gohan and Piccolo that would have ended most fighters instantly. We fight for the survival of our universe. We will not fall. Piccolo watched them regroup with a professional respect that he would not have admitted aloud under normal circumstances. Gohan, he said quietly, prepare yourself. Gohan nodded once, his hands already coming together. Piccolo charged his Makankosapo to its absolute limit, every cell in his body contributing to the spiraling beam of focused energy. Gohan's Kamehameha built simultaneously, the blue-white light gathering between his palms with a low, resonant hum that vibrated through the debris field. Both attacks fired together. Sonel and Pelina braced against the combined assault with their full power, absorbing the impact through sheer combined strength, their feet grinding backward across the shattered stone, their arms trembling, pushing back against the energy that was trying to end them. For a moment, it seemed like they might hold, like the equation might actually balance. Then Piccolo made his decision. Gohan. His voice was completely calm. Use everything you have. Maximum power. Now. But Master Piccolo, if you do that, you'll be eliminated too. Do it. There was no argument to be made. Piccolo understood it, and Gohan understood it. And in the space of a single exchanged glance, it was settled. Piccolo drove himself forward and wrapped both arms around Seonel and Pirina simultaneously, locking them in place with the full grip of a Namekian who had spent his life developing physical strength alongside every other discipline. They struggled against him immediately, but the hold was absolute. Gohan looked at his teacher, his first teacher, the being who had shaped everything he was, and pushed every limit he had inside him. His Kamehameha expanded. His voice tore itself out of him in a raw, wordless cry of absolute effort. The wave engulfed all three of them. The explosion that followed was visible from every point in the world of void. When the energy cleared, the platform edge that section of the arena had occupied was simply gone, vaporized along with the debris that had accumulated there. Three figures appeared in the spectator sections simultaneously. Sonel and Pirina of Universe 6 and Piccolo of Universe 7 have fallen from the platform. They are eliminated. A beat of silence. Therefore, with no remaining warriors, Universe 6 will be erased from existence. In the stands, Champa turned and looked across at Beerus for the first time since the tournament had begun. His enormous round face carried no anger, no accusation, no last desperate protest. Just something quiet and resigned, and beneath it all, something that might have been the ghost of a fraternal recognition. Two brothers at the end of something. He smiled. Then he was gone. Everything that had been Universe 6 was gone. In Universe 7's spectator section, Piccolo materialized in his seat and looked down at the platform below with the controlled expression of someone managing a complex internal experience. He had known what he was doing. He had chosen it. Incredible, Krillin said softly. Someone from our universe was finally eliminated, and it was Piccolo himself. It was a necessary sacrifice, Piccolo said. I have no regrets about it. Beerus glanced at him from across the stands. Not bad, Namekian. You earned my respect. I did what had to be done to ensure our survival, Piccolo said simply. Then he turned toward the platform, finding Gohan among the remaining fighters below, and raised his voice just enough to carry. Hear me, Gohan. Do not you dare lose. Not after this. Gohan looked up at his teacher. Something passed between them. The particular wordless communication of two people who had spent years learning each other's silences. I won't, Master Piccolo, he said. I promise. Then the pressure arrived. It came without warning, without build-up, without any of the theatrical energy flaring that had preceded every other escalation in the tournament. It simply existed, suddenly and completely, settling over the entire platform like a second atmosphere, heavier than anything that had come before it, including Golden Cell's wave, including Cold's fusion, including every transformation and revelation the tournament had produced. The remaining debris on the platform shook, not from an explosion, not from an attack, just from the fact of it. Every warrior still standing felt their bodies respond before their minds caught up. Knees that had been perfectly steady found new reasons to remain careful. Breathing became deliberate instead of automatic. Jiren stood in the center of the ruined arena, his arms no longer behind his back. This game for children is finished, he said. His voice was not loud. It didn't need to be. It is time to fight seriously. Goku exhaled slowly. His energy is incomprehensibly heavy. Vegeta was already thinking, his eyes moving across the tactical landscape with the rapid calculation of a lifetime soldier. Listen, we cannot attack this randomly. We divide, coordinate, no exceptions. Don't tell me what to do, Kakarot, Vegeta said simultaneously. Goku glanced at him. You, the golden insect, and the android are with me, Vegeta continued, his voice taking on the precise cadence of a field commander who was not asking for opinions. The four of us take Jiren. Understood? Cell considered objecting on principle, then decided the mathematics were too obvious to argue with. Fine. Then Trunks, Cooler, Gohan, and Dabura take Toppo, Vegeta finished. Move. In Universe 11's stands, the Supreme Kai leaned forward urgently, his voice dropping to a telepathic frequency only Toppo could hear. Listen carefully, Toppo. The Demon King, the Red One, his petrification ability is the most tactically dangerous threat remaining on that platform. It is a lethal trap. Remove him from the arena immediately. He is your priority. Toppo's expression settled into the particular resolution of a man who has found his purpose clearly in front of him. Understood, Supreme Kai. In the name of justice, I will deal with him. Android 16 stood quietly on the edge of the forming battle lines, his visual processors scanning the enemy formation with computational thoroughness. His voice, when he spoke, was measured and deliberate. New strategy recommended. Speak, machine, Colzer said. The primary objective for both groups must be the protection of Dabura at all costs, 16 said. Our tactical priority is to serve as shields and decoys, drawing enemy attention and absorbing their attacks. If Dabura successfully lands his petrification saliva on either remaining opponent, our probability of victory increases exponentially. Cooler's fused expression carried the deep personal distaste of two extremely proud individuals being told the same unpleasant truth simultaneously. The thought of depending on a demon's disgusting saliva to win is thoroughly revolting, but I cannot argue with the logic. A pause that cost something. We proceed as the android suggests. Straightforward, efficient, sufficiently repugnant? Cell commented. Very well. All right, Goku said, and there was something in his voice that had been absent for most of the tournament. A quality of pure, unguarded anticipation that had nothing strategic or calculated about it. Just a fighter, looking at the hardest fight available and being glad it was in front of him. Let's give everything we have. The auras ignited. Blue, gold, mystic. The light of every transformation still available to every warrior still standing blazed outward into the absolute darkness of the world of void in a combined eruption that was visible, presumably, from everywhere. Then they moved. Goku and Vegeta converged on Jiren from opposite flanks simultaneously. Their attack coordination the product of a lifetime of fighting alongside and against each other, each one covering the angle the other left open, each strike designed to force a response that created the opening for the next. It was, objectively, exceptional combat. Jiren moved through it the way a river moves around stones, not with visible effort, not with any apparent urgency. He simply was not where the strikes arrived, each evasion using precisely and only the minimum displacement required, every motion economical to the point of being meditative. I can't even graze him, Goku muttered through gritted teeth, pivoting for another approach. His speed is extraordinary, and there are no gaps. His movement has no openings whatsoever. Then Golden Cell materialized directly behind Jiren. The pressure he exerted simply by being that close was palpable. A wall of dense golden ki that pushed against Jiren's back and forced a response that no amount of patience could entirely absorb. Jiren's guard came up. His feet shifted, and in that fraction of adjustment, Cell fired. The energy beam at point-blank range was not restrained. It was not a warning. It was maximum output from the most powerful transformed state available to the most genetically engineered being in Universe 7's history, delivered from a distance of approximately 0. Disappear, Cell said. Jiren caught it with one hand, not blocked, not deflected with a weapon or a barrier or a generated counterforce. Caught, his palm open, the golden beam impacting against it and spreading outward around his fingers like water against a stone, his feet not moving, his expression not changing. Then his wrist rotated, redirecting the energy upward, and the beam detonated in the void above the platform in a silent, enormous explosion that lit up the darkness for a moment like a second sun. The collective silence on the platform lasted approximately 2 full seconds. Did everyone see that? Gohan breathed from across the arena. He deflected Cell's maximum attack, Piccolo said from the stands, his voice stripped of everything except the raw assessment. With one hand. On the other side of the shattered arena, Toppo was having a different kind of bad day. 4 fighters were on him simultaneously, Gohan pressing from above, Coldzer attacking from his flanks with the fused power of 2 trained frost demons, Trunks cutting off his retreats, and Dabura waiting with lethal patience for any opening that presented itself. It was, by any military analysis, an overwhelming engagement. Toppo endured it with the jaw-set stoicism of an enormously powerful man who was choosing to take damage rather than reveal what he was capable of. Each blow that landed rocked him backward. Each exchange left marks. The accumulated pressure built with every exchange until it didn't. Enough, Toppo said, the word carrying a finality that made every fighter near him involuntarily widen their distance. There are too many of you. You are making me lose my patience. His aura changed. It did not simply grow. It transformed, shedding the bright, heroic energy that had defined his presence throughout the tournament and replacing it with something darker, something that felt older and more fundamental. A deep, consuming purple that radiated not just power, but the particular quality of power that belonged to gods of destruction. The energy that could erase things from existence rather than simply damage them. "I have barely begun to master this power of destruction," Toppo said, and even his voice had changed. Lower, more resonant, less like a soldier, and more like a force of nature finding its vocabulary. "Maintaining it exhausts me enormously, but I assure you, it will be more than sufficient to end all of you." "Hakai." He moved, not toward Cell, not toward Cooler, not toward Gohan. Directly at Trunks, the fastest path to the most immediate elimination, chosen with a ruthless tactical clarity that had nothing to do with heroism and everything to do with effectiveness. Trunks' defense was excellent. It was not enough. The impact went through it as though it weren't there, and Trunks hit the platform floor with a force that shattered the stone beneath him. Coughing blood before the second impact with the surface finished the thought. For a moment, he lay completely still. Then Gohan saw him. Something in the half Saiyan came unmoored. The ki that erupted from him was not the controlled, disciplined power of a trained warrior applying technique. It was something raw, an emotion becoming physics, a feeling becoming force. His voice tore itself free in a sound that had no words in it. His hair erupted downward, growing wild and enormous past his shoulders. His eyebrows vanished, the energy radiating from him pressed against the remains of the platform with a weight that made even Cooler step back. "Well, well," Cooler said softly, observing the transformation with an expression that was genuinely surprised despite itself. The boy was hiding something extraordinary after all. In the stands, the Grand Priest turned his eyes toward Gohan with mild but genuine interest. Beerus stared. Since when does that boy have this much hidden power? What is this?" "Don't act so shocked, all of you," Piccolo said flatly from his seat in the eliminated section, something that might have been pride carefully flattened from his voice. "Gohan achieved that state because of the severe and brutal training we endured together inside the hyperbolic time chamber. That boy's potential has no ceiling. It never has." On the platform, Toppo registered the new power signature and immediately recognized the threat it represented. He began to reset his stance. Kolzer appeared behind him. "Don't forget about me," the fusion said pleasantly, and drove a kick into the back of Toppo's neck with the full combined force of two frost demons who had spent a month becoming something considerably more dangerous than they had been. Toppo staggered forward, spitting blood, his footing compromised for the first time in the tournament. Cooler gave him no time to recover. The assault that followed was precise and relentless, targeting joints, posture points, the angles that compounded damage rather than simply delivering it. Each blow landing with a surgical accuracy that reflected both Frieza's lifetime of combat experience and Cold's strategic intelligence operating in perfect unison through a single body. Toppo took it, and took it, and took it. His destruction aura flickering under the sustained pressure. Blood running freely now. His body absorbing punishment that would have ended any less extraordinary fighter several exchanges ago. Then he found one opening. He concentrated every remaining fragment of his Hakai energy into a single fist, wound back against the momentum of the last blow he'd absorbed, and drove it forward directly into Cooler's chest at the exact moment the fusion committed to its next attack. The impact was catastrophic. "Justice, vanish!" Cooler became a projectile. The fusion crossed the platform at an uncontrolled velocity that had nothing deliberate about it, past the ruined edge of the arena, out over the void, falling. Android 16 was already moving. He had calculated the trajectory before Cooler left the platform. His propulsion systems fired at maximum output as he threw himself over the edge, diving after the falling fusion through the absolute darkness of the world of void. His internal systems screaming warnings about proximity to the elimination boundary that he was ignoring with complete deliberateness. He got underneath Cooler. Reversed thrust, maximum output directed upward. The impacts he delivered upward were not elegant. They were desperate. Every joule of force his mechanical body could generate channeled into arresting a fall that was already past the boundary line and reversing it against a weight that his frame was not designed to manage. But they were enough. Colzer's trajectory bent, curved upward, cleared the platform edge by a margin that would have been distressing if there had been time to be distressed about it, and landed hard on the arena surface in a controlled crash. Android 16 did not clear the edge. He looked up at the platform above him for exactly 1 moment, just long enough to confirm the outcome was what he had calculated. And then he fell. Android 16 of Universe 7 has fallen from the platform. He has been eliminated. In the spectator section, Piccolo watched the empty space where 16 had been. "You did it," he said quietly. "Excellent work, machine. You were a critical piece." Cooler picked himself up from the platform floor, his fused expression carrying the particular dignity of someone who has just been saved by a sacrificial act and is having complicated feelings about it. "You infuriating pile of scrap metal," he said, to the void where 16 had disappeared. "You made me endure the humiliation of being rescued by an android." His voice, though it kept its cold arrogance, held something else beneath it that it hadn't held before. "I will pay that debt by finishing this." He raised both hands. Rings of dense golden energy materialized around Toppo's arms, legs, and torso simultaneously. 6 separate bindings that constricted instantly on contact, locking the massive warrior's limbs with a force that held him as completely as if he had been set in stone. "Ring bend." Toppo's eyes went wide, then immediately narrow. "Naive," he said. His voice carried genuine contempt. "These scraps of energy cannot contain the power of Hakai." He began to expand. The destruction aura pressed outward against the bindings, and the bindings pressed back, and the space between those two forces became a zone of violent, consuming energy that Coulter could feel through the connection between himself and the rings as a sensation somewhere between pain and catastrophic system failure. His teeth pressed together. His hands shook with the effort of maintaining containment against a power that existed specifically to undo containment. A little longer, the part of him that was Frieza told the part of him that was Cold. "Hold it 1 more second." "We're holding it," Cold responded, through the same voice. Dabura had been watching. He had been watching since Toppo first deployed his Hakai, reading the engagement, calculating, waiting for the one moment that the massive warrior's attention would be entirely committed elsewhere, consuming all of his focus in a single direction, leaving nothing available for peripheral awareness. The moment Toppo pressed his full destruction energy against Colzer's bindings, that moment arrived. Dabura opened his mouth. The saliva arc was precise, targeted, calibrated, landing directly across Toppo's face before the warrior could register the source or the intent. For a single beat, Toppo stopped fighting the bindings. He looked down at his hands. What is this substance?" He tried to move and found that the instruction was not arriving at his body properly. The sensation spreading from his face outward was cold and wrong and unstoppable. My body, it's stiffening. I cannot move. The gray came from everywhere at once, spreading across his thick, powerful frame with the patient thoroughness of a tide coming in, replacing the living warmth of skin and muscle with the cold, silent permanence of stone. The massive figure of Universe 11's second greatest warrior was, within seconds, a statue, enormous, perfectly preserved in the posture of a man who had just realized too late what was coming for him. In the stands, Vermood grabbed his head with both hands, his voice carrying across the void in pure anguish. Not again! Not that dirty technique again! Toppo! Colzer released the bindings, stepped back, wound up, and kicked the statue of Toppo with a single rotationally perfect strike that sent it sailing off the platform and disappearing into the void. Toppo of Universe 11 has been eliminated. Therefore, the warrior Jiren is the sole remaining participant of his universe. The words had barely finished when Colzer dropped to one knee. A flash of light, brief, total, unresistible, and the fusion came apart. Frieza and King Cold appeared on the platform floor, both of them breathing hard, both of them in their base forms, the earrings spent and silent, their energy reserves reduced to a fraction of what they had been when the fusion began. Maintaining energy rings against a god of destruction's Hakai for even those few seconds had consumed the fusion's remaining time entirely. Frieza pressed one fist against the platform and pushed himself upright with visible effort. Maintaining those rings against a destruction power depleted the fusion completely, he said. No matter. We accomplished what needed to be accomplished. He looked toward Jiren with narrowed eyes. Their second in command has fallen. They have nowhere left to retreat. Cold rose beside him, his breathing steadying. Now they are truly cornered. Every surviving warrior on the platform turned their eyes toward the center of the arena. Jiren stood exactly where he had been standing. He had not pursued anyone during the engagement with Toppo. He had not interfered. He had observed and waited and let the battle develop according to its own logic. Now the logic had arrived at him. From the stands, the voice of Universe 11's god of destruction came down, no longer theatrical, no longer performing for anyone, just urgent and direct, and carrying the full weight of what everything had come down to. Jiren, no more games, no more holding back, not a single second of restraint. Use everything you have, and destroy them all. Jiren closed his eyes, opened them, and the world of void changed. The torrent of red that erupted from his body was not an aura in the way that any other fighter's aura was an aura. It was something more fundamental, a power so dense it was visible as a physical distortion in the space around him, heat shimmer without heat, a warping of reality in the immediate vicinity of a being that had become, in that moment, more force than person. The platform beneath his feet cracked outward from the pressure of him simply standing there at full power. The air in the vicinity of Jiren collapsed in on itself and then expanded away from him simultaneously, as if unable to make a decision about which direction was survivable. His power is immense, Gohan said. The words were an almost comical understatement. In a fraction of a second that no one present would have been able to measure, Jiren crossed the platform and stood directly in front of Trunks. Trunks's guard came up. Trained reflex, practiced discipline, everything his years of fighting and his month of training with the legendary Z-Sword had given him. It was sufficient to give the exchange the form of a defense. it was not sufficient to change the outcome. The single blow went through Trunks' guard, as if the guard were an artistic choice rather than a physical barrier, connecting with a force that transmitted completely through his body from the point of impact, and Trunks left the platform traveling outward at a speed that was, at least, merciful in its swiftness. Trunks of Universe 7 has been eliminated. The king of the demon realm materialized at Jiren's flank before the announcement was finished. The moment was calculated. Jiren's weight distribution was still shifted from the kick, his attention momentarily committed to the direction of Trunks' departure. A window of perhaps 0.2 of a second where the angle was optimal. Dabura fired his saliva at point-blank range. He had done this successfully against two of the most powerful warriors in the tournament. There was no reasonable expectation that this moment should be different. The dense sphere of red ki that materialized around Jiren's body did not flicker, did not strain, did not require any visible effort from the man it surrounded. The saliva impacted the barrier and evaporated, not deflected, not absorbed, simply ceased to exist in the presence of that particular quality of energy. Jiren turned. The punch he delivered to Dabura's midsection carried with it the full, unrestrained force of the most powerful mortal in Universe 11 expressing, for perhaps the first time in the tournament, genuine displeasure. Dabura's feet left the platform before the pain had fully registered. His body created a shallow crater in the platform edge on its way over it. Pathetic, Jiren said, his voice carrying none of the anger of the words. Just a statement of assessment. That is for your cowardly tricks that removed nearly all of my companions. He extended one arm. A controlled wave of force, not even an attack, more like a gesture that happened to have physical consequences, swept Dabura's damaged, unresisting body off the arena. Dabura of Universe 7 has been eliminated. The platform went very quiet. Beerus sat forward in his throne, his ancient eyes moving across the remaining fighters with a calculation that was entirely honest with itself. Two of our most valuable fighters gone in seconds, Whis said softly. I have eyes, Beerus said. His power simply makes no rational sense, Gohan said from the platform below, his new transformed state still blazing around him, giving him no comfort against the number he was looking at. It doesn't operate by any rules I know how to measure. Golden Cell stepped forward. He moved without hurry. He moved with the absolute settled certainty of a being who had been watching this engagement develop and had reached a conclusion about it. Every remaining fighter on the platform oriented toward him as he placed himself between them and Jiren, his golden form casting a light that flickered slightly against the absolute darkness of the void. He regarded Jiren with an expression that was, for perhaps the first time, entirely honest. Stripped of theater, stripped of posturing, carrying only the genuine assessment of a perfect being looking at the one thing in the room it is not sure it can defeat. I'll grant you this, Jiren, Cell said. Your raw physical power is genuinely admirable. I have not encountered its equal in this or any other universe. He paused. But you've bored me, and when I am bored, I stop being careful about how much I reveal. More hidden power? Frieza said from across the platform, his voice carrying a note of genuine disbelief. Are you telling me, Insect, that after everything we've witnessed today, you still have something you haven't used? Cell didn't answer Frieza. He took a breath, and then he screamed. The sound that tore out of him was not the controlled energy release of a transformation sequence. It was something more visceral than that. A sound that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than lungs and further back than training. The sound of a body being forced to become something it was not quite ready to become. The golden aura that surrounded him began to behave wrongly, folding inward and erupting outward simultaneously, collapsing through layers of itself. Each collapse revealing a darker, denser layer beneath, the gold being consumed and replaced by something that gold had been concealing. The color changed, not to another variation of brightness, in the opposite direction entirely. The golden sheen darkened through amber, through bronze, through a deep and tarnished metallic ochre, and then passed all of those into something that had no warm colors in it at all. A black so deep and so dense that the light around Cell seemed to be bending toward it, rather than away from it, as if his aura was not radiating outward, but consuming inward. The exoskeleton that had always covered his body lost its green tones, lost its color entirely. It became black. A deep, absolute, structural black, not painted or transformed, but seeming to have always been that color beneath everything else, finally revealed. The pressure that hit every fighter on the platform was not comparable to anything that had come before it. Golden Cell had pressed against the upper limits of what the assembled warriors had been able to process. This did not press against those limits. It went somewhere that the limits had never thought to define. Toppo, already eliminated, felt it from the stands and instinctively stood up. Jiren opened his eyes fully, not wider than before, but differently, with the specific quality of attention that a person of extraordinary capability reserves for the specific rare moments when something genuinely demands it. "Be aware," Cell said, in a voice that had changed, lower somehow, as if it was coming from a greater depth, "that while this state represents a colossal power, I have barely begun to master it. The energy cost is catastrophic. This was my final reserve, kept entirely hidden, preserved specifically for the worst possible situation." He looked at Jiren without blinking. And here we are. He took one step forward. The platform cracked beneath it. Another step. Another crack. The stone that had survived every preceding engagement in the tournament was expressing an opinion about what was standing on it. Black Cell stopped directly in front of Jiren, close enough that the two power fields pressed against each other, red against black. Two absolute forces acknowledging each other's presence for the first time. Cell's expression carried something that the golden form had never quite achieved. A complete absence of performance. No smile, no arrogance, no theater. Just the clean, stripped-down reality of a being that had finally decided to show exactly what it was. "Let's see what you're actually made of," he said. "Justiciar." The last battle had begun. Black Cell and Jiren, standing in the center of a shattered world, surrounded by the exhausted survivors of a tournament that had already erased 6 universes from existence. Every divine being present leaned forward. The king of everything, who had shown no particular expression throughout the entire proceedings, tilted his head slightly. In the stands, Beerus watched. On the platform, the remaining warriors of Universe 7, Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Frieza, King Cold, held their positions at the edges of the confrontation and watched. And in the absolute darkness of the world of Void, with the fate of Universe 7 and every soul it contained hanging in the space between two fighters, the final exchange of the Tournament of Power began.